Well, a big part of what happens is, these guys get lost. A lot of times they just, we often refer to the guys that come to the shed as the lost boys, not the broken boys, the lost boys. They're guys who, have lost the trail of who they are and what their value is in the world. And what happens there is if I don't have an identity, I got to find something. And what develops out of that typically is some version of some persona that manifests in rebellion, manifests in, I'm just going to be wild and I'm going to be the wild kid or whatever, but it tends to be unproductive and it tends to be hollow and it tends to create a lot of destruction in a household.
Yeah. I mean, our identity is based on something.
Right.
And if it's not something foundationally that is substitute, then it becomes destructive.
Yeah, the fruits will out. Yeah, the fruits of the tree will out. And if it's a corrupt and rotten and false identity, it's going to cause chaos in the home, and it's going to cause chaos in relationships and brokenness. And part of what we understand about what we do is helping young men find a foundation and an identity that's real, that's rooted in something real that will actually produce good things in their lives.
I think for a lot of these kids, parents want these grandiose ideas, of what an identity is. Hey, I want my son to be this doctor or this lawyer or something, maybe bigger than what they're really capable of at that moment, But for us, just something simple for them. Hey, like you're strong enough and capable enough to go have a job, to finish your GED, to live on your own. But it starts the process because many of these kids sit, just thinking these great ideas just happen,
Right.
and they never move, But, we try to create movement, no matter how simple it is, because once they start moving, then the wheels start turning. How many times have these kids, halfway through a program start thinking, well, maybe I could go, be this guy or be an HVAC guy or be a manager of this or go to college or we've had many of those guys, but it's funny on the front end, you don't hear that. But once you start moving, getting some of those wins, it's like they can start developing these ideas for themselves.
It's a lot of them believe that they can't, right? The idea that like, I don't have what it takes, You ask a mom or a dad and they're like, yeah, we want to have peace and we want to have, all these great ideas of, in our home, but we want to control what our son does. And it's like, you don't have a choice until you have a choice, right? So they're wanting their young men or their son to become this, great, awesome man. But it's like they're trying to dictate what it looks like. They're trying to, contrive this outcome, which then doesn't even let him choose who he wants to become.
Right. Well, and the amazing thing about, Josh talked a little bit about starting small with concrete goals. Any movement is better than no movement. Any movement is better than false movement. Any real movement is better than false movement. And when you get a young man that starts to, get his GED or graduate high school, take college courses, maybe start in a vocation, and then all of a sudden he gets a sense of ownership and he gets an awareness of how, whoa, my behavior can have an impact on my world. And then all of a sudden the sky's the limit. Guys come here and they feel really far behind, but when they start really taking ownership and building their foundation on a firm identity, all of a sudden they're way ahead of their peers because they're building a foundation that's secure and can carry them into the future in a meaningful way.